Welcome everyone to The Explainer. Have you ever read a single sentence that literally drops your body temperature by a few degrees? Like a passage so incredibly dense you can practically feel the damp air on your skin? Well, why does atmosphere matter so much? Because a poorly written setting makes a story completely forgettable, but a masterful one that fully immerses you, stays in your bones forever. And that is exactly what we're looking at today. We're going to deconstruct a masterclass on how a single, incredibly dense excerpt can build an overwhelmingly immersive and chilling aesthetic. We are exploring the anatomy of atmosphere, the Gothic veil of Blackwood Manor. Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to really listen to these words. A dark forest at dusk with heavy fog surrounding an abandoned Victorian mansion. Dead trees sway silently under a cloudy sky, creating an eerie atmosphere. Just let that sink in for a second. This isn't just basic description, right? It's a meticulously crafted sensory experience. The true brilliance here is the absolute economy of words. There's literally not a single wasted syllable in this excerpt. In just 2 sentences, the author has completely transported us. So we're going to pull apart the machinery of this text and see exactly how those gears are turning underneath. Let's start our thematic deconstruction with Part 1, Into the Gothic Veil. To really understand how this works, we actually need to start at the end. So, the crucial point is this concept of the eerie. The definition of eerie is something strange and frightening, inspiring an inexplicable feeling of fear, mystery, or unease. I want you to notice that word, inexplicable. Think about the psychological difference between horror and the eerie for a moment. Horror is visceral. It's the monster actively chasing you through the woods with an axe. But the eerie? Well, the eerie is that deeply unsettling suspicion that a monster just might be watching you from the tree line. It's not a jump scare, it's a creeping dread. Every single word in our source material is meticulously engineered to arrive at this exact psychological state. The author doesn't just want you to visualize the manner, they want you to feel that unsettling, skin-crawling sense of unease before a single piece of action even takes place. Now that we know our destination, let's look at Part 2. The environmental elements, and check out the deeply unnatural surroundings that set the stage. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how these 5 specific data points methodically strip away our senses. Look at them. Dark forest, dusk, heavy fog, dead trees, cloudy sky. Think about what is actively happening here. The author is systematically turning down the lights and removing visibility. Dusk means the light is fading. A cloudy sky means there are no stars or moon to guide you. A dark forest blocks whatever ambient light is even left. And then that heavy fog literally blinds you to your immediate surroundings. When you systematically remove sensory input like light and sound, you're actually hacking the reader's biology. In the real world, sensory deprivation triggers the amygdala, the fear center of the brain, making us hypervigilant. It's an absolute masterstroke in building suspense because it plays directly on our primal evolutionary fear of what we just cannot see. Let's contextualize this by comparing expectations for a second. Think about a standard forest. Usually, when you imagine one, it's alive, it's vibrant, echoing with bird calls, rustling leaves, dappled sunlight. It's this bustling ecosystem of life. But Blackwood Forest? The text explicitly tells us the trees are dead and they sway silently. By subverting our lively expectations of a natural forest with the deliberate use of words like dead and silently, the author creates this chilling void. Imagine standing in a massive, sprawling forest where a heavy gust of wind blows through the branches and it makes absolutely no noise whatsoever. How incredibly unnatural would that feel? It's an environment completely drained of vitality, where the silence itself actually becomes a suffocating presence. So, we've surveyed the macro environment, but now the text forces us to look inward for Part 3, the Victorian centerpiece. The text ultimately lands on the abandoned Victorian mansion. Let's analyze the immense weight of those words. Victorian architecture already carries connotations of rigidity, history, and a certain kind of imposing grandeur. And here's a fun fact. In the early 20th century, a lot of these massive, ornate Victorian homes were actually abandoned by wealthy families who just couldn't afford their exorbitant upkeep anymore. So they were left to rot, becoming these looming, empty relics, which is exactly how they birthed the modern haunted house trope. Combining that architectural history with the word abandoned, meaning completely lacking human presence or life, changes everything. Placing a massive, empty human structure smack in the middle of a dead, suffocating forest amplifies the sense of complete isolation. A house is meant to be a shelter, a place of warmth. But here, it's just a hollow shell reflecting the death of the forest around it. It invites this immediate, terrifying question: what forced the humans to leave? And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer consistency of the author's vision. Take a look at this mood matrix we've pulled from the text. Forest, dark. Fog, heavy. Trees, dead. Sky, cloudy. Mansion, abandoned. It reveals a complete, terrifying absence of warmth, light, or life across every single setting element. There is zero relief in this description. The author doesn't give the reader a single positive or neutral anchor to hold onto. It's just a unified, monochromatic painting of dread. If you're an aspiring writer, maybe a dungeon master running a tabletop campaign, or just an avid reader, building a mood matrix like this is an incredibly practical tool. You can use this exact framework to ensure your scenes have a singular, overpowering tone. All right, we've looked at the microelements. Now let's bring it all together in part 4, constructing the eerie atmosphere. Let's move to our steps here and see how this builds into a repeatable formula for Gothic horror. Look at the mechanics. Step 1. Dim the lighting using dusk and a cloudy sky. You take away the sun. Step 2. Add obscurity. You use heavy fog and a dark forest so the reader feels entirely trapped and visually impaired. Step 3. Remove life. You make the trees dead and the mansion abandoned. This is the grand synthesis. The environment and the architecture are no longer just passive settings. They fuse into one unified Gothic veil that traps you inside the narrative long before the plot even begins. Which really brings us to the ultimate power of this kind of atmospheric writing. It doesn't spoon feed you all the answers. It forces your own imagination to do the terrifying work for it. What secrets does that heavy fog actually hide within the rotting walls of the abandoned mansion? And perhaps the more unsettling question, why are we as readers so deeply drawn to the eerie in the first place? Thank you so much for joining me on this deconstruction. Take these elements, look closely at the media you consume, and start noticing the atmosphere building around you. I'll see you in the next explainer.